We're joined by Jerry. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm all right, Ross. How's it going?
Why on we?
Um, Not much, mate. Not much. Just relaxing a wee bit after work. What about yourself?
I'm just doing this pod with you. Can hardly hear you, mate. Can you speak up a bit?
Yeah. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Good man, good man. Well, a lot's been going off in boxing. You've probably seen Kalle and all of it news today.
Yeah.
What do you think to his interview?
What can I say? I thought the Talk Sport guys caught him off guard a few times. Thought that was quite funny. Uh, he uh, he was a little bit embarrassed when they asked him what the options were for, or what other options were out there for Chris Eubank. So I had a bit of a laugh at that. Uh, um, Also thought it was funny how he'd been to the south of France with Wayne Rooney. Um, so I guess those two guys are good buddies then. And he reckons Wayne Rooney could have been a great boxer had he turned to boxing instead of football. That's news to me, mate. So
Well, listen, they're going to say that, aren't they? What they're going to do, they're going to sprinkle that bit of boxing magic on Rooney's ego, right? And Rooney's going to be dazzled by it all. Plus, there'll be millions on offer if Rooney fights, won't there?
yeah, I think it's crazy. Personally, I didn't realize how old Wayne Rooney is.
Well,
He's
this is what they're
55.
doing now. Is what?
He's 55.
Wayne Rooney.
That's what it said. That's what it said in that video. I'm just going to double check
Wayne
that.
Rooney's not 55, mate. He's about 40.
Well, that makes more sense.
No, he's not 55.
Yeah, he is 40. You're right. 30, 38 actually. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's about
don't know
that. But
why.
the point I want to make is this. This is where they're taking boxing now down this route. And people are going to be stumping up for stuff like that when they could be putting that kind of money into boxing. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to milk that boxing crowd even more. And it's another nail in coffin, isn't it, Jerry? Well, especially small old stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. The more this stuff gets pushed, the more, like the everyday audience, the casual fans lose sight of what's really going on in the sport.
Well, they'll pinch
And
25,000 at Man U lot, won't they? You know, the diehards.
yeah,
They'll pinch 25,000 of them, and then there'll be all others who want to see it, and there'll be KSI lot if that's the route they're going to go. And like I said, where does that leave boxing if this is what we're having to turn to?
that's it's a sorry state of affairs, really. I don't think it does the sport any good. I know some people disagree and think the more, the sport is kind of got light shone upon it, you know, it brings people in maybe because of the celebrities in these kind of misfits type fights, and then they take up the sport or get into the sport properly and start following it. But I don't really see it that way, to be honest. I think it's kind of catering to that sort of
Casual
casual,
market.
yeah, casual market, um, you know, short attention span type fan who doesn't really give a toss and is just looking at the headlines in the paper type sport fan, that type. That's what I think.
Yeah, but will Rooney be going for a pro license? Because KSI's got one, hasn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. It sounded like listening to Kalle, you know, he was a little bit reluctant, but it's the sort of thing you can just see him warming to.
Listen, if
You
there's
know,
that much dough on offer, they'll do it. They'll just do it. They'll not be bothered about the board. The board are weak. They can give. my mate Chris Smedley are fine for being in a corner on a white collar, but yeah, these are putting events on.
Yeah, I think it'll appeal to Wayne Rooney's ego, the whole thing.
Oh, they'll appeal to it, them lot. I can assure you, they'll already be. All we'll be hearing now, leading up to it, if they do fight, is how Wayne Rooney could have been a British champion at super middleweight or something like that. We're going to be hearing all that waffle.
Absolute shit.
That's how they'll sell it. And they'll be going up to
Yeah, yeah,
Rooney in gym, and Kalle will be there. He'll be doing IFL interviews with Cougs and all the little circle. And he'll be saying things like, "Oof, God, you want to see Wayne Rooney on the pads? Woo, woo, be squeaky bum Cougs for KSI and all that stuff. It'll be the same old shite."
yeah, yeah. That I mean, he's already started with comments like that. Like I actually couldn't believe what I was watching earlier. And he said about, you know, like I said, I already mentioned earlier, like, Wayne could have turned his hand to boxing. Like, he's just if you
Everybody
fancy
could.
anyone in a fight,
Your mind's all over when you're a kid, isn't it? But Rooney's obviously were on his football, which is how he's come to make. What is he worth? About 130 million, something like that.
I couldn't tell you. He's worth a few bob anyway.
He get 25 for his house, didn't he? So he's poked up, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
But like I said, Kalle, he don't care for boxing. They care for
uh,
money. That's all
yeah.
these
He's a
these
businessman.
people are not in ring. Kalle will be promoting in another 20 years when he's probably 65 or something. 66-year-old. When all these
Yeah,
boxers are nowhere near, Kalle will just see him at shows and say, "Oh yeah, I do remember you. I do remember you. Tell me your name again." To begin it, that "Oh yeah, you were a great fighter." Then that way, it won't give him a second thought.
yeah.
Not
That's
a
that's
second thought.
that's how these businessmen operate, though. They've no emotional attachment, but they'll do whatever they need to do to sell the fight.
Can't be.
That's
Listen,
just how
I've
it
seen
operates.
Dennis at shows and I've seen his ex-fighters there, and they're not spoke. And I thought I've looked, and obviously I know if he's always fell out with that, and I thought, you can feel tenseness of it.
Yeah,
If you're a promoter and there's an ex-fighter there and you fell out on bad terms, because usually when a fighter loses, first he's angry, then he's upset, then they play blame game. Usually it's trainer that gets it in head, but if it's not trainer, usually family are chipping away. It's the promoter or the manager. It's very harsh behind the scenes, and
yeah,
promoters they've got to have brass neck on them. But like I said, Dennis has fronted it out years, and he's been a promoter since mid 90s. So he's fronted it out. Plus he can handle his sen, and he won't let anybody take liberties. And you've got to have a bit of that about you. Otherwise you
yeah.
end up like Sam Jones, don't you? Just wanting to be everybody's pal. He's me pal. He's me pal. He's not a pal of mine. You know what I mean? And
He's
that's
not
what
pal
happens.
anyone's.
You end up like Sam Jones, and then when you actually do something in the game, you have to let everybody know every minute of every day. Like all we've had now for 5 days is Sam Jones were the go-between for that Taylor Catterall fight. How it drained him and all that, and the hours he's put in. Sam, stop laying it on thick. Well
It's
done.
shocking.
I've got you a sheriff badge here. You can wear it. Uh, you know what I mean? You can go wear it with Big John Fury and Eubank's dad, English. But
Oh my
get
god.
over yourself, Sam. We're fed up of hearing about your role in it now. You know what I mean?
He's just embarrassment, Russ. I mean, he's just cringe. He's just
It's just
cringeworthy
right. Look,
to
I've been in
watch.
that position. I know when I was with Fight Academy, I was chomping at bit after a while, and I tried to make an IBO fight. I got in touch with IBO. It was all done. Frankie Gavin against this. You know what? I can't remember the kid's name. Done a John Fury. Can't remember the man's name. Dennis and that is it. Errol Johnson, Birmingham guy. They pulled it, didn't they? With 2 weeks to go. Oh, but I don't think Frankie had done a lot of tickets, and I think everybody were thinking, "Oh God," because if Frankie had won that, the plan were I made a calm on it in Dennis's Head and Asif Valleys. And that's just how you get involved in little scenarios, isn't it? In boxing, it starts off with me with an idea, with an email, and then it goes out, down other avenues, yeah, and everybody starts talking make believe, utter rhubarb. And that's what it is. It's a load of grown men chatting a load of rhubarb in coffee shops. That's what boxing is.
So, are you comparing yourself to the ego that is Sam Jones? Are you saying
No,
that
I'm
that
not
happened to you?
saying I used to do similar things like what he's doing now, trying to put
Yeah,
people together and be a middle person, and you get bounced about, and I'm not a very patient person, me.
but you didn't turn into an arsehole.
Eh?
You didn't turn into an arsehole though, didn't you? Not?
No, I didn't tell you. I'd like to think I am. I'm mouthy, aren't I? But point I want to make is I can understand how he feels, so I tip my hat off to him. But he
Yeah,
will
okay.
be sweating like a stuck pig every night until they're in the ring, because if that fight gets cancelled or they get injured or whatever,
On his head be it.
on his head be it so. He'll be thinking, obviously, he'll know what money he's getting. He'll be thinking of
Yeah.
getting his hands on that. He'll have plans for that. And he'll be thinking at glory if his guy wins. Don't forget, this is the man that told us Big Joe Joyce bone density was 6 times stronger than Terry McCann's. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that were a load of old waffle, wasn't it? Because once Zhang started winging him in, his bone density were like a marshmallow, and he had the art of a breadcrumb on the night. So
Either
much about
that,
that bone density and him being a juggernaut.
either that, or that means Zhang is like the strongest
Either that
puncher
or Zhang
there.
is like, well, I mean, look at Zhang, right? He's the world's slowest moving object, isn't he?
Well, I don't know. Joyce is slower.
Well, there you go. If Joyce
Yeah.
couldn't do with Zhang, what would he have done with Joshua or Fury? I mean, look, Joe Joyce sparred Tyson Fury when Tyson was 28 stone. Tyson just stood in middle at ring, and Joyce couldn't get near him then, and neither could the bar. So what are they going to do if Tyson's 19 stone?
Not an awful lot.
Levels, isn't there, to this game? And that's an Olympic silver medalist, so they were saying should have had gold. Look at who took it up late in the sport. Where are we going with this? You know what? People can put years in to get to that level, and he just comes and does that. It says a lot for the levels around the sport, doesn't it, Jerry?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of confused by the frequency of how there's people leaving, turning pro so late in the game. It's like, you really should be doing that sort of in your early mid 20s, and even that's leaving it. I think you could even turn pro in your early 20s. But like the likes of Fraser Clark and Joe Joyce left it really late. And like, what's Joe Joyce? Now, Joe Joyce has got he's got about 2 years left, if ever, if even. That's if he even makes it. It's because he's left it so late. And I don't really know the thinking behind that. Was it an afterthought that he decided to turn pro, or did somebody advise him to stay amateur for longer for whatever reason? It doesn't make any sense to me. He's lost good years. Like there's Parker, for example, right? Who's been around for what seems like for ages, and he's only like 31 or 32. And he's still a few years left to go. So, Joe Joyce could have been mixing it up had he turned pro, even 2 years earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tough one because Joe Joyce. The more I look at him, the more I look at him, and I think I bet he wishes he'd have just sat it out, for his title shot.
Yeah, rather than jump in with Zhang again. Yeah.
Yeah, but they got paid twice for them fights. He'll have had a mill off them 2 fights.
He should have taken a different route, got a couple of wins under his belt, and built himself back up just mentally, and give himself that boost to go in. That if he did need to face Zhang again, he'd be in tip top condition, like mentally and physically, and also I've had the activity, kind of keeping him fresh. So he would have had the best chance possible against somebody who's already, knocked him out. But I think again he was maybe advised wrong, to take the fight right away, and he's probably let that get into his head where he's felt like I need to go and correct this, right away, and it's not worked out for him. He's probably one loss away from being totally buried, like, and never heard of again, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it funny when you look back at people like David Price, and we've just been on about then Joyce, with his bone density strength, and David Price, a big truck just mowing everybody down like Godzilla.
Yeah,
You look at guys like that, and Frank Bruno, how they're built up into be these like monsters. And look what happens. Audley Harrison as well, another one who are going to do wonders. And look what
terrible,
happened.
but yeah, Harrison probably has to be. He was a new level of embarrassment. David Price. I mean, I remember the Tony Thompson fights quite well. Like, and again, he went right into that rematch, if I remember correctly. He went right into that rematch with Thompson. Maybe not wasn't necessarily the thing to do. Maybe he could have done what I was sort of suggesting with Joyce, go and have a couple of wins elsewhere and come back. I felt really sorry for Pricey, to be honest. Nice
Yeah, I
guy,
did. It's all right, Price. He comes across all right, doesn't he?
nice fella, comes across all right, doesn't come across um a
That's
total
only
prick.
value.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a real. I don't know about you. I think you might be similar, but if a boxer's a prick, like, I find it really hard to like them,
Yeah,
no
I
matter how
do.
good they
I do. I do. Do you think
are. So
that Audley Harrison could have done better, Jerry?
Jesus, Audley Harrison had, physically, he had it. He had the body. I always thought he was a bit slow, but you know, um, something was not right in that guy's head. Uh, I remember totally embarrassed watching him in some of his pro fights back in the day, and I don't know. I didn't really feel sorry for him, the same way I did for David Price. Sort of felt maybe sorry for him towards the end, but not in the same way. Um, I think that guy was kind of like a classic, built up to be a hype job, bought his own hype, and then just crumbled mentally when it came to the crunch, basically. Um, and the whole thing with David Hay as well was almost like, it was terrible. Can you remember watching that, Mike? Like, how did you feel watching that? It was
What David
awful.
spell you?
No, Hay against Harrison.
Oh, that. Oh my God.
Shocking.
Well, Audley Harrison only threw one punch in 3 rounds, didn't he?
Like, I remember thinking, how, unless that guy went to Spain or another country for a year, how the hell would that guy have walked down the street after some of those fights? Do you know what I mean? People
David
talk about Frank Bruno not
David A
having the
looked
killer
menacing.
instinct.
David A looked menacing that night, didn't he?
Yeah. Do you not think, though, it was a, come on, David, get me a couple of quid before I cash out here? Do you not think it was that kind of a fight?
Uh, David A sparred
Because they
him
were
many.
kind of friends, were they not? No.
David A had sparred him many times, right? So he knew it were free money, didn't he?
Yeah. Um, I think there was also, if I remember right, there was also that little bit of fake beef that they had just for the build up of that. But everybody knew that that was going to be a shocker. Like, you know, nothing Audley Harrison had done in his pro career up until that point suggested that he was going to go in there and give David Hay a hard time. Nothing. Not
What
in my
about
opinion,
all
anyway.
the t-shirts he had? Yes, I can.
What was that? I don't remember that.
Yeah, getting off at plane and going through turnstiles at Gatwick. He had an
Oh, geez.
entourage and they all had matching t-shirts that said, yes, I can. And they only selling pay-per-view, wasn't he?
That's terrible, man. I didn't remember that. Yeah, yeah, he was probably just selling the pay-per-view, but you know, I think somebody's pride, particularly a boxer's pride, should be worth more than that. You know, did he try? I don't think he tried. I don't think he tried. I don't think he wanted to try it. That's what I was going to say. People criticizing Frank Bruno for not having that killer instinct. Frank Bruno had a lot more fighting instinct than I think Audley Harrison did. And I'm not a fan of Frank Bruno either. As a boxer, seems like a nice guy, but
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I see Caldwell were interviewed and they never mentioned about him and Ebony splitting up, did they? Why are interviewers not asking him that? Don't you want to talk about it?
oh, probably doesn't. It's probably embarrassed now.
On Bombay Dave, another one bites the dust. He's only got Opie Price now, hasn't
Yeah, I suppose all his eggs are going to be put into that basket.
he? Yeah, it's a strange one. What about Yard Boatsi? Do you think that'll happen, Jerry?
Well, the last thing I saw, Boatsy didn't seem, sorry, Yard didn't seem too keen on that, which surprised me because I thought Yard comes across like the sort of guy I've never seen Yard not confident against any um, opponent that he's being put in the mix with. Just when people are talking, he always comes across as a guy who says he's going to get the job done, that type of way. And I believe the interview I seen with him, he was down playing him and Boatsy like right time, etc. Whereas I think Boatsy seems more keen on that fight. Do we see it? I think it's possible, yeah, but I just thought that was odd. I don't know what Anthony Yard's plans are going forward, like, but I think the Boatsy fight would be a cracking domestic. I think Boatsy and Dan Aziz would be great opponents for Yard. We'd love to see any of those guys in. I'm kind of was hoping for the Boatsy Yard match, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen this year. Anyway, I would like it to, but I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Oh yeah.
No, unless you know something I don't.
Well, I'd like to see it, Yard Boatsi. I'd like to see Lee Wood against Warrington, but that looks like it's dead in water now, doesn't it?
Oh, I thought that was I thought that actually was going to happen, that rematch. So is that
Well,
dead completely?
I hope it does, but we don't hear much talk about it, do we? Unless I
No,
miss.
a couple of weeks ago was the last I heard something about that, and that's where I thought that was it going ahead. So that's a real bummer because
How do you see it going that fight if it does happen?
um, well, we all know what happened in the first one. I personally think Josh Warrington could take that match again, unless he's completely deflated inside, which I don't think he would be. If he just sticks to the plan, he could totally get away with a victory over Lee Wood. I think.
It's not
Lee,
listed on Box Record Circular or anything, so it's not made.
Well, that's very disappointing because that's probably like what's Lee Wood's next option? That's probably that probably would have been their biggest money fight going for both of those guys.
Yeah.
unless Lee Wood's going to move up now, if he's going to move up weight, because I know he had been complaining about making weight before, and I believe he'd said it was his last fight at that weight class anyway. So that's a real shame. I do think Warrington could have beat him the next time. I think he was already outlanding and scoring, so he could have just avoided any real rough stuff up close and basically nicked a points victory. Don't know if he would have stopped them, but we're not going to see it now by the looks of it.
What about that Adam Azim against Dalton Smith at European? Do you think that's a good fight if it happens?
Absolutely. You were saying the last time we were speaking that that's being called.
Yeah, by EBU.
Say that again, Ross?
By EBU, European Boxing Union, have called it.
Well, I think that's a good
good fight, isn't it?
I think that is a good fight, yeah. And it's good to see, we'd say that's a 50-50, would you?
I'd say Dalton Smith's a 55 against Azim a 45 because of experience.
So, okay. Well, that's you can't be bad to a 55-45, really. So if they can get that on, that's something to look forward to, certainly in the future.
Yeah, what about Ben Whittaker? What do you think to him? Who would you like to see him fight, Jerry?
I was listening to Terry, your video with Terry the other night, and you put it to him about throwing him in with Boazzi. And Terry was like, Ben Whittaker is somebody you want to kind of match correctly, and then when the time comes, you would stick him in with somebody like Boazzi. But as I already mentioned earlier, if a boxer comes across like a prick, I don't like them. So I'd like to see him in a hard fight to knock some of that showboating stuff out of him. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of. I think that opponent who he fought last time, even though he was there to get beat, he actually gave a good account of himself in his last fight. That fella, and I don't think a fighter needs to be disrespected like that in the ring, particularly to the extent. Say you do one showboating move, right? Fine. Don't start dancing in the middle of the ring, and the referee's going to tell you, warn. I believe he was warned several times. So Ben Whittaker's not pressing any buttons to make me like him. I think he's got great talent, and I think he's got for that weight, he's got really good physical attributes. He could be a real force, but personally, that showboating stuff's got to stop, mate.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was sickening watching that. Actually, it was like somebody had told me about it before, and I watched it after, and I actually couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought Nazim, Prince Nazim, was bad, and I thought what I'd seen in that one fight was way more than I'd even seen Nazim do back in the day.
Yeah. What do you think to Tony Bellew putting that tweet out, bigging up Willy Wonka, the Saudi guy, Triple T. Oh. Bigging up Willy Wonka as the most influential #1 man in the sport of boxing. Proper rimming him. Unbelievable. Before he's even got there.
Took the words out of my mouth there, Russ.
Man's Tony, got no shame, has he, Bellew?
He's warming his spot up, basically, making sure he gets enough rimming in to secure himself a little spot over there, doing whatever it is, cleaning toilets or whatever. That's pathetic. Like the guy's got no shame. I don't know. Don't like the guy. Think he's a bit of a joke. Always thought he talked.
He never got invited to champions, did he? In Saudi by Willy Wonka, did he?
No, that must have really hurt him. given how great he thinks of himself. I always could not stand that guy's tough guy talk. How tough the guy was. All this sort of shit. No, Tony Bellew is a bell end, as you say.
Yeah, big shout out to Snod and Bez in Liverpool. Hope you're well. Maxie Hughes coming out doing that video, more or less explaining why they're not working with Eddie and why they're working with somebody else. Do you feel that there's a bit of a fear factor amongst fighters and managers and trainers if they go across the street to work with somebody else, that they don't want to burn bridges and a lot of them sweat? What do you think? You think there's some of that going on?
I think there has to be. I don't know if that's the sort of thing that goes on in the States, but I think because here, in the UK, there's two main guys, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more condensed. So, and we all know that both promotions and promoters they don't fucking like each other, right? Even though at the minute we're being treated to this charade of them being best friends, right? But and I know that they don't like each other, and that element of what you're just describing there has existed in the past. So I do think that exists over here. I think it's quite sad because at the end of the day, a boxer just wants to be promoted and wants to give a fights and wants to make money
Yeah,
and
but
do
why
well.
should they have to explain themselves to him if they've no contract? I mean, it's a bit like the Dave Allen situation. He's gone down to London to a Bricktop show, and he spoke to Bricktops a lot, and they've offered him a deal and that, and he's rung Eddie Hearn up and Barker asking them, oh, I've been offered this and that. You didn't have a contract with Matchroom, David, so you don't have to be doing daft stuff like that. And look what happened in the end. You don't get a toss. So Maxie, you should just crack on. We're working with Lou Rebella. He ain't got a Matchroom deal, so you don't have to explain yourself, Maxie. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if somebody's put him up to that. You know what I mean? So it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Without anyone saying anything to anyone about it, it's probably off their own thoughts that they think, well, I don't want to burn bridges, because they're going to have heard stories and stuff. You know what I mean? So they are going to have an element of that. I don't know which one might be worse. Whether somebody who's fought for Bricktop, who crosses the fence, goes and fights for Eddie Hearn or whatever. I don't know if which of those two guys is going to be a little bit more vindictive should they need to come back. I can't say, but there has got to be a little bit of that in fighters' heads. Do you know what I mean? Particularly maybe the guys not at the top. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you want to go on to part two, lad?
Yeah, no problem. I'll see you there in a minute, okay?
Right. Please
Take
join
it
us
easy.
on part two. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment and share on your WhatsApp. Pop, pop, bang.